Have you ever been laughed at for the way you spoke? For the way your tongue stumbled over words that were not your own? Think about that moment. The silence that follows, the awkward smile you force, the way your heart beats faster as you wish you could just disappear. Maybe it happened in class when you tried to answer a question in English and your pronunciation wasn't quite right. Maybe it happened at work when everyone around you spoke fluently and your turn to speak felt like standing in a spotlight you didn't ask for. You tried to sound confident, but your voice betrayed you, trembling, uncertain, slow. That's when the laughter comes. Sometimes loud and mocking, sometimes quiet and polite, but always heavy enough to bruise your confidence. You walk away pretending not to care, but inside, a small voice whispers, "Maybe I should just stay silent." And that's how many dreams die. Not from lack of talent, but from the fear of being judged. But pause for a moment. Why do we fear speaking slowly? Why do we think fluency means speed? Every great speaker, every master of words once struggled to find the right ones. Every fluent voice you admire began with hesitation. Speaking slowly doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're learning to be clear. It means you care enough about the words to say them right. When you speak slowly, you give yourself permission to breathe. You allow your thoughts to catch up with your tongue. You stop chasing perfection and start building confidence. And in that stillness between words, you begin to discover your own rhythm, a voice that doesn't need to rush to be heard. So when people laugh or grow impatient, remember this. Speed may impress them for a moment, but sincerity stays in the heart forever. Speak slowly, because every word you speak with courage is worth more than 1,000 said in fear. There was a young man named Ravi who faced that every single day. He wasn't shy or unmotivated. He was simply a learner in a world that didn't have the patience for learners. When he first moved to the city, everything sounded different. The rhythm, the tone, even the casual greetings. People spoke English like music, fast and confident, while his words came out uneven, heavy with effort. Every time he tried to speak, he felt like someone climbing a steep hill with slippery shoes, struggling for balance, always one breath behind. At his workplace, his co-workers often chuckled when he spoke. They didn't mean harm, but their laughter echoed in his mind long after. He began to speak less, afraid of making mistakes. He practiced alone at night, reading aloud from books, recording his voice, and correcting himself. But still, the next day, when he opened his mouth in front of others, fear would freeze his tongue. One afternoon, he went to a cafe to order tea. He practiced his sentence in his head over and over. "1 cup of tea, please." Simple enough, but when he finally said it, the words came out mixed up and uncertain. The barista smiled kindly, but a group at the next table laughed. That laughter followed him out the door. He sat on a bench nearby, holding his tea, and for the first time, he wondered if he would ever sound normal. That moment broke something inside him, but it also began to build something new. He realized that shame would never help him grow. That night, he promised himself he would not let fear silence him again. He remembered a line from a book he once read, that the path to mastery is walked slowly, step by step. He decided that from now on, he would speak English slowly, clearly, and without shame. And that small decision changed everything. But one day, after yet another embarrassing moment in that same cafe, Ravi sat alone and asked himself a question that cut through his frustration. Why do I feel ashamed of learning? He looked around and realized everyone he admired had once been where he was, uncertain, imperfect, and struggling. The people who spoke confidently today had probably stumbled yesterday. It wasn't that they were smarter, they had simply kept speaking. That night, he remembered a line from The Alchemist, the one that said, "Every dream begins with courage, the courage to take the first step, even when the path is unclear." Ravi understood then that his struggle was not a failure, but part of the process. Every mistake was a small brick in the wall of fluency he was slowly building. So he made a quiet promise to himself. He would stop running from his slow speech. Instead, he would embrace it. He would speak deliberately, no matter how long it took to form a sentence. When people laughed, he would not shrink away. When he forgot a word, he would pause and find another way to express his thought. He decided that speed didn't matter, connection did. From that day forward, he practiced differently. He spoke to himself in the mirror, not trying to be fast, but trying to be clear. He read books aloud, listening carefully to the rhythm of each word, and when he talked to others, he looked them in the eyes, not as someone ashamed of his accent, but as someone proud of his effort. For the first time, Ravi began to feel something he had never felt before: control. His English was still imperfect, but now it was his. Every sentence he spoke carried honesty and determination, and in that quiet confidence, he discovered that speaking slowly was not a weakness, it was strength in disguise. From then on, whenever someone mocked him, he didn't let anger or shame control him. Instead, Ravi smiled gently and said, "I'm learning. You once learned too." His words were simple, but they carried truth, and that truth disarmed people. The laughter that once made him small began to fade. He no longer saw his mistakes as proof of failure, they were proof of progress. He started joining English conversation clubs, not to impress anyone, but to connect. Whenever others rushed through their sentences, Ravi stayed calm, letting each word settle before moving to the next. He discovered that speaking slowly made his ideas clearer, his thoughts more organized. People began listening to him, not because his grammar was perfect, but because his words carried meaning. Slowly, his confidence grew. The boy who once avoided conversations was now helping others find their voice. He realized that English wasn't just a language, it was a bridge. And every bridge takes time to build. Every pause, every hesitation, every attempt mattered. One day, while waiting for a meeting to start, a colleague turned to him and said, "Ravi, your English sounds so calm now. What changed?" Ravi smiled and replied, "I stopped trying to sound fast. I started trying to sound real." That answer stayed with everyone in the room, because that's what fluency really is. Not racing through words, but speaking with understanding. Ravi had learned something most people never do, that speaking slowly doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're thoughtful, patient, and confident enough to take your time. Months passed, and one ordinary morning, something extraordinary happened. A new employee joined Ravi's office, a young man named Amir, fresh from another country. During introductions, Amir struggled with his English, stuttering and hesitating, just like Ravi once had. Some of the team members smiled awkwardly, others exchanged glances, and that familiar wave of discomfort filled the room. But before the silence grew heavy, Ravi leaned forward and said softly, "It's okay. Speak English slowly." His tone was warm, calm, and sincere. Those 4 simple words changed everything. Amir's shoulders relaxed and he smiled for the first time since he'd entered the room. The others noticed Ravi's patience and began listening instead of judging. In that small moment, the atmosphere shifted from pressure to understanding, from judgment to encouragement. Later that day, Amir thanked Ravi privately. He said, "I was so nervous. I thought everyone would laugh at me." Ravi smiled and replied, "They laughed at me once too. But now I know we don't learn faster by rushing. We learn faster when we're not afraid." That conversation stayed with Ravi for days. He realized that his slow journey had given him something powerful: empathy. He understood what it felt like to be scared, to feel small, to fight for confidence in every word. And that understanding made him strong. He no longer saw English as a competition. It was a shared journey, a bridge connecting people from different worlds. Ravi's slow, patient way of speaking began to inspire others. People who once mocked him now came to him for advice. They noticed how clearly he expressed himself, how thoughtfully he chose his words. He had become fluent, not just in English, but in kindness. In helping someone else speak slowly, Ravi realized that true mastery isn't measured by how fast you talk, but by how deeply your words reach another heart. You see, we often measure intelligence by fluency, success by accent, and confidence by perfection. But the truth is, none of these define real growth. Real growth begins when you dare to keep speaking, even when your voice trembles. When you push through the fear of being judged, you start to build something far more valuable than vocabulary. You build courage. Think about it. Every great communicator, every confident speaker you admire once faced the same silence, the same hesitation, the same fear of making mistakes, but they didn't stop. They kept speaking, slowly, awkwardly, imperfectly, until their words began to flow. The only difference between them and those who stay silent is persistence. Ravi understood that now. He realized that fluency isn't about sounding perfect, it's about staying consistent. Every word he spoke, no matter how broken, carried effort, and effort, when repeated enough, becomes skill. His pauses were no longer signs of weakness, they were signs of thoughtfulness. His accent was no longer a flaw, it was a story, proof that he had learned something new. So, the next time someone laughs at your English, remember this: they're not laughing at your mistakes, they're laughing at their own impatience. Let them rush, let them chase speed. You take your time, speak slowly, because your goal isn't to impress, it's to express. Your slow words today will one day become your strong words. And when they do, you'll realize that the journey of learning a language is not just about speaking, it's about finding your voice, your confidence, and your power to keep going no matter who's listening. So, the next time someone laughs when you speak, remember Ravi. Remember that learning is not about being perfect. It's about not giving up. Every mistake, every pause, every forgotten word is not a failure. It's proof that you are trying, that you are growing. Fluency doesn't come from hiding your voice. It comes from using it again and again until it begins to shine with confidence. Speak slowly if you must. Speak imperfectly if you must. But speak, because silence will never teach you what courage can. The more you speak, the more your tongue learns to move with ease, and the more your mind learns to trust itself. Progress might not be loud, but it is steady. Like a seed growing quietly beneath the soil, your efforts are building something strong and unseen. One day, you'll look back and realize that the voice you were once ashamed of became your greatest strength. You'll remember every moment of doubt, every time you wanted to give up, and you'll smile because those were the moments that shaped your fluency. So don't rush. Don't compare your speed to someone else's. The journey of learning English, or anything in life, isn't a race. It's a path of patience, courage, and belief. Speak slowly, speak bravely, because every word you speak, no matter how small, is a step toward the person you're meant to become. And when that moment comes, when your words finally flow with ease and your voice no longer trembles, you'll understand something profound. It was never about sounding perfect. It was about becoming confident enough to be understood. You'll see that every slow sentence, every awkward pause, and every moment of struggle was guiding you toward clarity, patience, and strength. Fluency will come not as a sudden victory, but as a quiet transformation. You'll notice it one day when you speak without fear, when your thoughts flow freely and you no longer translate every word in your head. You'll laugh, remembering how scared you once were, and maybe you'll meet someone just like you, someone afraid to speak, afraid to be judged, and you'll tell them the same thing Ravi once said: speak English slowly. Because speaking slowly means you are aware. It means you are learning with intention. It means you value understanding over speed and growth over approval. That kind of fluency doesn't fade, it becomes part of who you are. In life, as in language, the goal isn't to rush ahead, it's to move forward with purpose. So wherever you are on your journey, don't let fear silence you. Keep speaking, keep trying, and keep believing that your voice matters. Because it does. Every single word you say, no matter how hesitant or slow, carries the power to change you, and maybe even inspire someone else to begin. And that's the beauty of speaking slowly. It teaches you more than language. It teaches you life itself. When you slow down, you begin to notice things others miss. The meaning behind your words, the emotions in your tone, the connection in someone's eyes as they listen. You stop chasing approval and start building understanding. Speaking slowly becomes a reflection of how you live, with patience, awareness, and purpose. Ravi's journey wasn't just about English anymore. It became about how he approached everything, calmly, confidently, without rushing. He began to see that life, like language, rewards those who are consistent, not those who are fast. Every small step, every slow word was a quiet victory. And one evening, As he walked home through the busy streets of the city that once scared him, he overheard people speaking fast, their words tumbling over each other. But for the first time, he didn't feel behind. He felt centered. He smiled to himself and whispered, I don't need to keep up. I just need to keep going. That's the lesson we all need to remember. Whether it's English, success, or self-improvement, it's not about how fast you move, and it's about how true you stay to your path. So take your time. Speak with heart. Let your words carry meaning, not pressure. Because when you speak slowly, the world doesn't just hear your words, it feels your truth.